the end of the day, I know who I am.
Welcome. You are listening to
Rainbow TableTalk.
Now go back to the stripping music. Go back to the stripping music. Felt like I was a whole stripper in here. It's all in the shoulders.
That's what you was trying to do today.
All of that.
How y'all doing? Wait a minute.
What's going on? What's
Give
going
me a
on?
hug.
Give me a good hug.
I need a good one.
Ask your elbow, but give me.
All right.
I love you.
What's up, people? This is Rainbow TableTalk, and sorry for our lateness. Listen,
Tell them.
somebody is about to be set free tonight.
Tonight, not tomorrow, but tonight.
Tonight, because whenever you have technical difficulties, the way we've had technical difficulties, something finna happen.
I'm surprised you got all your locks still.
Yeah, one almost fell out. I had to catch it. Let me tell you. Because I want to get to it.
Yes.
Today, from the start of today, I locked myself out the house. I missed my hair appointment. Listen,
is it like Mercury retrograde?
Like I don't know what's happening, but something's happening, and the devil is trying to do everything possible for me to be like, you know what, tonight might not be the night.
Don't even worry about it. You might just need to cancel.
So I'm truly excited, and we are here on Rainbow TableTalk. If you can find this clip right now, because I couldn't even find it to share it.
Somebody's going, whoever finds this,
share this. Please send it to me. So share this, like this. We are on Facebook, hopefully, YouTube, hopefully, IG, hopefully. If not, I will post them later and we'll be on there eventually.
Somewhere in the cloud.
So, Kate, introduce our guest for tonight.
What's going on, my good people? So, the reason Duchess and I started this show was to kind of talk a little bit about, queerness, spirituality, sexuality, all type of different topics. And we are going to have a guest tonight that is going to talk about spirituality and sexuality. How do we unite this? And we got another pastor, y'all, Pastor B. I'm going to let Pastor B just come on and introduce, because Pastor B got a little resume, okay?
All
so
right.
we're going to bring Pastor B in.
Hey,
what's going on, Pastor B?
What's up? Welcome to the Rainbow TableTalk. How are you doing?
I'm good. It's so good to be here. You know what I'm saying? Finally feeling y'all energy. I'm really hyped about what's about to go down. It's crazy when you got a whole group of positive people together. I mean, negative energy tries to stir it up, but then it has to dissipate. So, we in a place that everything's still gonna go forward, and we got something to say tonight. And I know Spirit is here, and so it feels good. I'm glad to be here. So
definitely.
So you want to say I got my little son running around here, so if he runs up, I told him not to, but you never know. Okay,
it's all right. We in the house. I mean, you got to bring the baby.
You have no idea how many Rainbow Table Talks I've had producer running kids upstairs because they got if you ever see me gaze on camera like this,
you got the mama eyes.
Somebody is standing at the top of the steps like, I want a hug.
He's the boy, so I just, what do you want? But anyway, yeah, he should be good.
That's the good real. So I know we kind of had some little bit of energy. We want to kind of reset that, center it.
Yeah.
Duchess, I'm going to leave this to you because I tend to mess up icebreakers. You are like the icebreaker king and queen. So what do you got on the menu tonight? Pastor, we like to shake it up a little bit.
Okay,
so
cool.
What you got? What you got?
All right, Pastor.
Mm-hmm.
In high school.
Oh, John. Oh, no.
Took it back.
Oh, no.
When you was writing notes,
oh my goodness,
what was your sign off on the notes? Like, was it just love B Powell? Like, how did you sign off?
Oh, you talking about like love notes?
Yeah, like we was on the love notes. How did you sign off on the love note
in high school? Yo, I mean, dang,
you took it back.
I took it way back. I don't remember really writing nobody no letter in high school, but maybe in college.
Okay.
I used to write this girl letters all the time.
And how you used to sign
Over
off
the
Pastor?
summer.
Look, you see how getting deep when you had to.
You see how the cheekbones
Probably
came
like your boo, it's your boo B or something like that. I don't know.
It's your boo B.
It's your boo B.
Sounded like a whole 90s rapper.
MC Light. MC Light.
It's your boo B.
It's your boo B. You know what I'm saying? I don't know.
You know I'm gonna tease you about that. You know.
With a little heart on it and then a little B in the middle.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Hey, I'd have got you every time you walked in class. It's your boo B in the building.
Kiss 105.5.
No, man. Yeah, I used to write letters there.
Oh man, that's great. That's awesome. Well, that's our icebreaker. So now we all friends and family. After you share that one, it's all love after that.
Right. Now somebody gonna be blowing me up to my, you don't write me letters.
And I ain't getting nothing by no boo. So in the chat, for your folks there, in the chat,
let me know what's going on in the chat. Let me pull up the chat. So I'm excited. So tonight's episode is the balance between spirituality and sexuality. And that might be an awkward statement for some because some don't like to. It's like separation of church and state when it comes to your spirituality and your sexuality. So tonight, I guess for us in the LGBT community, we want to just really delve into some of that church hurt that we've all kind of experienced. That feeling of, when it comes to this spiritual realm, because of my sexuality, I do not belong, which is how we've been made to feel. So today we kind of want to bridge that gap. And I thoroughly believe that's the reason we've been having so many technical issues, because tonight people are made to be set free. People are made to be loved on, and just shown some love and compassion and, feeling. So again, thank you for being on the show with us tonight, Pastor.
Yeah.
No problem.
So, Pastor, just tell us, before we get into the good meat and set people free, talk to us about who is Pastor B and how do you serve the world?
Well, serve the world. I was reflecting on that, and I feel like that's huge. But when I think about it, in my day-to-day job, I'm a chaplain. I'm training to become a chaplain educator. And so I'm in like the third phase of my process. One more voting committee, and then I'll be a associate chaplain educator. And so I won't have to do any more committees. And so I train chaplains, and a part of me training chaplains is because of my own passion to liberate those who have been marginalized in society, and also teach ministers what it feels like to be a marginalized person, to be a Black queer woman, and how then to let them know that I am Christian. I do have a relationship with God, and I'm still Black and queer. That doesn't change. And so also to invite ministers to think about God in a different way, and to help them understand that God does love all God's people. And I have a story, and there are other people with stories. And our mission in life is not to bring God to people, but to see where God is already in their own lives, how God is already showing up for them. And so that was revealed to me. And once it was revealed to me, it was like, oh man, I've been doing this all wrong. I've been brainwashed to do it all wrong. And so, so basically that's who I serve on my day-to-day, but outside doing what I'm doing with you all, that's what I love. I love reaching my own people. So helping other queer persons or same gender loving persons or gender minorities in the world actually and liberate themselves and let them know, hey, it's okay. You can have a relationship with God. God does not see you as a sinful person. Spirit does not see you as a sinful being. That there's spirit in your soul, there's spirit in your body, and you can honor that spirit because that spirit honors you. And so that is my goal. That is my whole life mission. If I am able to touch someone else and help them feel free and whole in their bodies and their being, then I've done the work. I could die happy. And so in the process and all that, I'm just trying to live my life in all of it. You know, I'm working through church trauma. So I'm also healing myself as I do this work. So this is, so it's mutual. It's all of that. So yeah, hope that answered that. So.
Oh, that was beautiful. That was beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So, Pastor, you talked about going through some of your own church trauma. How do you think that? How did you receive your calling? First of all,
Ooh, y'all hitting with the deep ones.
You know what I'm saying? Wasting no time.
Yeah, I got you. Man, so to be honest, my sister came out when she was 15 years old.
Mm-hmm.
My sister is 3 years younger than me, and I really didn't understand my sexuality. I think growing up, I knew I was a tomboy. But I also was the oldest, and I was kind of trained. I'm from the South. I'm from Atlanta, and my family went to church. You know, we were raised in the church. My mom's a minister. My uncle's a gospel singer, and so we were raised around the church. And so, you know, I've always felt connected to spirit. I was the one who was going to like my mom's. I can't think right now. It's late, but go see the sick and shut in and do communion. I was actually happy to do that as a kid and just to sing and all that type of stuff. No lie, I really liked to go. I wasn't the one that was like, I'm tired, and so I knew then I was called. I knew something around. I was like 11 to 12 years old. I knew I was called. I just didn't know what for, what to. So moving all that along, when I got to college, I fell in love so I was with a guy for the first, not my first time, but like my first real relationship. Mm-hmm. And we dated for 4 years, but in between time, the person who was like my best friend ended up becoming more than the best friend. And
they say she's just a friend. Hey, they say she ain't just a friend. She ain't never just a friend. She ain't
no roommate. She ain't no
roommate. I mean, sis would be like in my bed waiting on me after the class. And I was like, okay, this is something a little different. And you know, one night she was just like, you shouldn't go out with him. And I was like, what do you mean? And she like, you know, whispered in my ear, and I knew I was changed.
That was it. That was it. Whispering sweet somethings.
Producer, how that song go? I know I've been changed.
Yes, she changed my name. She did. But yeah, I remember telling my roommate, I was like, "Ooh, I liked it though. I liked it." So I don't know what I am, but I knew I liked that. Yeah. And so, but in the process of
listen, player, it went from hey Daddy, how you doing? To hey, listen, player, this ain't gonna work.
Can't do it no more.
Yeah. So you know, just knowing anyway, yeah. So that happened, and it began to tug on my heart because I not only did I love him, but I loved her, and it was stressful. And I remember in the process of it, I talked to someone. Someone was like, "Man, you going to hell? Like you really have gone backwards." And I was talking to an ex. So Ronnie, why should you talk to? So I was talking to an ex guy that I used to date, and he was very Christian. He knew where I came from in high school. So someone I dated in high school. It's like, you just going way back. So I literally ran into the church. I was like, okay, Lord, clean me, save me, sanctify me, pure me. So I literally just stopped having sex. I went to a church that actually promoted that, like, you know, become abstinence and, you know, clean yourself. And if you become abstinence, you'll be whole again sexually, and you become a virgin again and all this type of stuff. So I was abstaining for sex for like 7 years. And I got called into the ministry while I was there doing that work in that church. I was choir director. I worked with the youth. I ran the after school program. And so this is all in my mid-20s, early 20s. And in the process, I felt called. I had dreams and like dreams of me preaching. And I went to my pastor, and, you know, in the Baptist church, all you got to do is say, I'm called. And the pastor,
they're going to use you.
And they're gonna give you, they're gonna sit with you for a little bit, and then you're gonna preach a trial sermon. That's all you gotta do. Yeah. And so I preached my trial sermon. I got my license. But being a student, being already graduated from college, I already had, Black intelligentsia is, part of me and part of my core and what I believe. Shout out to Spellman. And so I was like, I gotta go to school. Like, I don't think I should do this and not go to school. Mm-hmm. So I went to school, and I went to Interdenominational Theological Center at the ITC. And it's in Atlanta, Georgia. It's the only historical Black college seminary. And it has like, I think 7 seminaries now. But they have the Presbyterian Church, the CME Church, the Kojic Church, the Baptist Church, the non-denominational church, the Methodist Church. So all housed in one location. And we all learned together. And it was there that I got free. One, I struggled with my freedom. I'm answering 2 questions. Said that was my call. So I got my call along the way. But where I got my freedom in that experience was that it always takes a woman, y'all. It takes a woman.
Yeah, I tell you.
I started. I fell in love. See, and also because we don't learn how to be queer, gay, lesbian early on. So what I'm about to describe is actually quite toxic. But because I didn't know how to date.
Okay, come on.
We had a dating show about 2 weeks ago. Bring it on.
I literally just I remember having night sweats about this particular girl that I was dating, a woman I was dating, or I was not dating. She was my friend. I started to have night sweats about her. I really liked her. And I remember just saying, because this is what doctrine has done to people, like, God, if this is not for me, strip this of me. Like, I don't even want to live if this is not who you say that I am. And I remember just like, but it has to be going back and forth. This has to be real, because I've never woke up in night sweats when I was dating guys. Like, that never was a thing. Like, I'm sweating, like, it's real. It feels real. It feels real to me. And I just remember saying, okay, God, take this away from me. And as I was saying, God, take it away from me, I literally would meet people along the way, strangers, who would say, whatever you're praying God for, God says, what you have, you are, what you need, you already have. As in, you don't need to fight this. This is you. Like saying, don't fight this. This is you. I don't remember word for word. But I remember saying, okay, one of those prayers that you only pray to God, and you know that only God will know because you only prayed it for God. And so about my senior year at my last year at ITC, that was like my first year there. And I remember praying and said, God, if this is not who you want me to be, then take it away from me. But if this is who you want me to be, then allow me to preach, because I'm just going to school to be a preacher. Allow me to preach a revival at a gay church in Atlanta. Out of the blue.
You better be specific.
What happened? I didn't know gay people at the time, openly gay people. So it was really one of those, it may never ever happen type prayers. And my last year, one of my classmates, Eddie Meredith, which I know he doesn't mind me sharing this, because he asked me to preach, which he's the son of Dennis Meredith, who actually his father had the first openly gay church in Atlanta, which is Tabernacle Baptist, which you see kind of on all the little gay shows in Atlanta, LGBT shows. That church scene is in Tabernacle, and I preached a one-night revival there. And that night I preached, my school teacher was there, one of my school teachers, one of my friends' close mothers was there. So it was like I was surrounded around community that I had
you had no idea.
And so it was like a welcome home, girl. We've been waiting for you type party. And I never looked back. And I said, you know what? There's people like me who are out there, who are afraid to come out. And I knew it because I saw it in my seminary experience. Y'all, it's so many preachers. That's all I'm going to say. It ain't my role to call them out, but they will not. Because if they did, they'll lose their congregation. As in faith,
so
the congregation will lose their faith.
That's so sad.
they'll lose their income because their income is also supported. And so it's a really hard balance. But when I saw it that way, I just knew I didn't want to live that way. And I didn't want to, because I had been lied to for so long that this is a sin and this is a sin against God. That now that I not only know it's not a sin against God, I know there's other preachers who are hiding but preaching and not saying nothing. And so people are still left with the belief that it's a sin against God.
Yeah.
And so it's just heartbreaking. It's heart-wrenching. And so I said, I don't want to live that way. But I do also understand my colleagues that have to live that way. The balance between. So it's not to shame them. I get it. I just said that I couldn't do it. And those are the reasons why. Because I was hidden for so long. And also because my sister was isolated and from our family. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, what do I look like? A, to be a minister. B, to be someone who's closeted, not sending people around my family. Like my family didn't know I came out until I ended up getting married. They didn't know. Mm-hmm. But
hey guys, next week.
right.
Get married.
Get married.
Okay.
So, but that's it. I mean, so all of that energy is what pulled me to this, to study it more. Because now that I'm out, I still don't know. I have to study. I had to learn. And so we can get into some of that, because the way in which you have to process this experience and be a minister is that you have to do some work of deconstructing the text. And I took 2 classes that was on, one was on Bible, sex, and sexuality, and sexuality and spirituality. And these 2 classes is what kind of changed my ethos about what it means to be a sexual being and to be a holy being and to be a child of God. Like, so, but anyway, I'm sorry, Gary.
No, you're fine. I mean, you're taking us through like your process, like you said, your own calling and your freedom, and what is kind of leading you to how you're helping people. So you tapped on something. You talked about kind of a little bit about the theology. Mm-hmm. Let's actually get into that. What are like we know like, okay, the Sodom and Gomorrah, the Leviticus. Can you break down like maybe like Sodom and Gomorrah, like the theology of why the church uses certain scripture to weaponize the queer community? So if you could maybe break down a couple of them, or the top ones.
So I'm gonna try, because let me be very clear. My seminary study was pastoral care, which is why I'm in Chapter C, and psychology of religion. So I can tell you the thought process of what religion does to people's minds and how it causes them to behave and things of that nature. But we do have to take some Bible courses. So what you really want is a Bible scholar who also can then break out the Arabic meaning, the Greek meaning, the Hebrew. So
what you're saying is we gonna get you, and then we did one with Candace Hardnett, so we gonna have to get y'all on together.
Yes, get a whole set and some release. Yes, exactly. And I'll tell you about one of my friends. She's an ethicist, Elise Ambrose. You should definitely connect with her as well. Oh, yeah. But, so if you Sodom and Gomorrah, we take that text. So basically, that text is not, and I don't have the Bible in front of me, but the real message beyond the text is not that he or they were trying to rape these men. It was more so about hospitality, that they weren't opening or inviting themselves or being welcoming to the community that was there. But I don't have the text in front of me, so I can't dissect that. If I had it right here, I could. But the main premise of that text is all about hospitality. It's not really about the sexual piece that's there. That's what gets harped on.
And then you can't force yourself upon people.
You can't force yourself upon people. Yes, that is the sin.
Like the sin there is that they were forcing themselves upon people.
Yes, that is the sin. But my favorite text, there's 2 things that I like to bring out as the context of sexuality. Is one, right in the beginning, when Adam and Eve went and God called them and they ran to get fig leaves. And then they told him, hey, we ran. He said, why did you run? He said, because we were naked. And then the next question, he said, who told you were naked? So one, they felt shameful because they were naked, but God didn't place that shame on them. He said, who told you you were naked. They've been running around naked. They've been without no fig leaves. They've been sitting there lollygagging, and then all of a sudden they sin, which the writer of original sin comes from Augustine. So Augustine, who was a theologian, a historian, philosopher in the Bible, church history. So his thought process about what happened in the scripture is what frames original sin. So his interpretation of that text is the one that we're left with. So do with that whatever you want. But I think also in understanding that there are people who actually write the Bible, who the Bible was written by people.
It's written by men.
Yeah.
Written by men, inspired by God. Is written by men. You can say who God is to them.
Yeah. It's like you gonna write a song.
Just like you write a song, everyone can take a different interpretation of that meaning. So it's the same.
And everybody can take some inspiration differently. Because you can
take inspiration differently. Yes.
You can be inspired from a relationship in a completely different way from how I'm inspired by a relationship. So
absolutely. So you have to understand when you're reading the Bible, you have to read it in its context. And it's not always being interpreted in that particular context. And so then there's different hermeneutical lens. So I come from a social justice lens. So when I look at the text, I'm always going to empower those who are marginalized. I'm always going to, look for who's the person that's being down and looked down on the text. And so I'm going to try my best to lift that person up, which is what Jesus did. He said, blessed are the poor among you. So Jesus was always pointing to those who are marginalized in society.
Right.
And the other piece about the text is that, and this was enlightened, I was enlightened by this through my friend and colleague S2E5 Dillard, who's also was a classmate of mine at ITC, who's your priestess now. But she said, Jesus never said anything about sex. This is the first time me hearing it in seminary. And when I went back and read that, I was like, you're absolutely right. Jesus never said anything about sex. There's nothing, Jesus doesn't give us instructions about sex. It's Paul who does. And then Paul says, he gives a answer how I probably would answer. So I'm not beating up Paul. He said, I wish men was more like me. He also is very honest that, I don't have an answer for this, but I can say that I wish men were more like me. And he was abstaining from sex. And what he said is better to marry essentially than to burn. And so, and then
so we talking about STDs though.
Definitely been talking about it.
Paul might have been scratching while he was writing the list.
He might have been scratching, which could be very true because he's a Greco-Roman, which means he was from Greek. He was a Hellenized Jew, so it was Greek and Roman. So and that whole culture. I hope the biblical scholars don't kill me. They're gonna probably kill me, but
it was wild.
Yeah, it was wild. It was, it was like,
in 1200 BC.
They was trying to find some discipline in it, some ethical frameworks around sex. Yeah. So that was them framing it, but it wasn't like this thing that you're gonna. It was gonna be beyond become derogatory. So. You asked me another one about my scripture. The one of the scripture I like to use is, and if you go on my Instagram, I did a series called Walk, and I talked about different women in the Bible who use their bodies to change the world, to save the Jews. I mean, we have Esther. That text, as much as it's talked about and highlighted and preached in church, they're not really talking about what Esther is actually doing. In order to save the Jews, she is turning tricks for the king, and that's the whole point. She's on his.
I got to get back on my studies.
She's talking about he chose her. She was the most divine. It's talked about how she the king gave her all these beauty secrets to give, and then the king went into her. The king had sex with her and said she was more favorable than all of them. That is the text. They're talking about sex.
I think my favorite Instagram post was somebody was talking about when Jesus was basically saving the harlot from her own death. He was writing in the sand. And they were like, nobody knows what he wrote in the sand, but he was probably like, if this doesn't work, run.
I got you, boo. Exactly. And we try to dehumanize Jesus and say that Jesus, we don't even talk about his own humanity and what it looked like for Jesus to be a 33-year-old and somebody sitting here rubbing on his feet. Right. I mean, we don't try to
listen, I don't care what nobody say. Jesus was cut, okay?
Yes. Right.
Like, you can't be a carpenter and not have muscles.
Muscles, period.
Could you imagine a grown man?
And we talk about Africa. Okay.
The skin was probably glistening.
Our people.
Listen, somebody rub some oil and locks cross my leg right now.
Put some oils in his head. Come on.
I'm shutting it down.
What you gonna do? Exactly.
Look now.
Somebody touch my feet. I'm just gonna believe that.
Why am I
I'm gonna get serious, but all I can think about is Jesus being like, girl, you better go on. Girl,
go somewhere, girl.
Look, you want another blessing? You want another blessing or what?
So we have, and I know why we have shamed ourselves. We have come into a place of shaming because as especially as African Americans, we have to talk about slavery and how the Black body was abused and overly sexualized. Once you do that, and then you get to why you have the Moniques who says you're supposed to dress a certain way. You shouldn't have your bonnet on. Like, come on, queens and kings. And well, what does that really come from? It comes from because our parents or grandparents and great grandma them telling us to cover ourselves because the master had the opportunity to use us and abuse us whenever that he wanted to. And so how do you hide? How do I protect my child? How do I protect my loved one? And so it comes out of that paradigm, but we have to start shifting and asking ourselves, because if we look at the beginning of the Bible and the beginning of the text, Jesus says, who told you? God says, not Jesus, excuse me. God said, who told you? The deity in that book says, who told you were naked? So how do we reclaim our bodies? How do we reclaim our sexualities? Especially when it says you are made in the image and likeness of God. And all of us are made in the image and likeness of God. So that means my body has to resemble God's body. I don't know. I'm just thinking, right? I'm saying that's my body is an image of God. And so my body is the image of God. How do I affirm that for myself, live within that, honor our bodies, reclaim it for us and not for society? And so, yeah. I mean, yeah.
There's just like I like that you talked about that, because there is that that almost like you feel dirty.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, when you find that wholeness, in past experiences in life, I've found more shame in being with a man than I've ever felt with being with a woman. Like, it just, for me, it was a level of wholeness in finding a partner that you love and desire, as opposed to this, why am I doing this?
Right.
Where are these doubts coming from? Do I really even, I don't even enjoy this. Like, it's just that moment where you're just really get one with yourself and just can be like, this isn't for me. And just being able to free yourself and finally being like, all right, I love God. I love who I am. And if you don't like it, that's your business. You don't have a hell to send me to. Never have the keys been placed in your hands. Right. So once you get to that moment, it's just freeing. And I feel in that sense, because you have allowed yourself to be spiritually free and sexually free, you honor yourself more in who you allow yourself to give yourself to.
Right. And honoring yourself more is also honoring God. And I think we take that we try to separate that, because that's what we did with Jesus. We tried to separate his humanity from him being the Messiah, and we still struggle with that. But God is both man and divine, and we are both humankind and divine. So we're both human. We're all human beings, and we're also divine beings. And we have to reclaim that as true. We are source energy. We are light. We create, and we put all of that energy into the world, and things manifest. And so we have divine power within ourselves. But if we allow people, we allow book to tell us what our divine light is, what our divine power, we will never see ourselves like that. Because if a book tells us, no, you're not, you're sinful, that's crazy. You want to think about, for those who have lost their lives due to suicide, those who struggled. I've struggled. And when it's like, if I start to believe what other people say about me, I probably will want to end, my life. But if I believe what I say about me, how do you reclaim your own voice about who you say you are? That's why it is essential to do affirmations. We can't allow the world to define who we are. It has to begin with us, It begins with us first. So yeah.
Thanks for that, Pastor B. And I think that's just so welcoming. Like, that's why Duchess and I started this, because back then we can remember going up to the altar and doing the same thing. Like, I don't want to be gay, just kind of separating who we are and wanting to have this connection and this love with God. And back to what you were saying earlier, we've just been brainwashed. So for people that's like watching this and saying, you know what, I hear you, you have your story, but what is that like process? Like, what is maybe like the first initial kind of step to kind of at least get you going, or moving someone to that reconciliation space? I know it's
I can tell you what it is for me, because I think you do it over and over again. Moment of transparency. I married someone who's a sex worker, and I didn't know how. I'm like, okay, I'm free. I can deal with this. I know how to talk about this. I will honor this. But yet those same embedded thought process of being with someone says you need to cover up, or you need to cover your body, or maybe you're doing a little too much, or maybe, and what I mean by sex work, burlesque dancer, and even that, trying to explain what it is, because society says you have to, as a minister, even in the LGBTQ community, people hold you to a certain standard of what a minister is supposed to be or look like. And it's because it's these embedded frameworks we have. So I want to say that the journey is always a constant journey, because you have to deal with that embedded construct that's been placed in your mind since you was a child and told you what you should do and be like. So let me say that. So it always will be a journey. But the first step, and I can only reframe it in how I got there, is that my friend told me this, and this is a person who I really was connected to, and realizing it was just a spiritual connection, but it turned into something sexual, honey. Because sometimes, listen,
them soul connections,
Be
the ones.
That's them the hardest to break.
Listen, I got the phone was and we are close, because I do recognize that it was we were there to teach each other something. But she said, wherever I am, God is there.
Say it again, please.
Wherever I am, God is there. And so she said, if I'm in a nightclub, God is there. If I'm in KFC, God is there. Like sitting right here, God is with me. And even now, it brings tears to my eyes, because it allowed me to see that spirit can be with me wherever I am. And I have access to that source. I have access to God wherever I am. And so I think coming to that realization of self, that God is always there, that spirit is always with me, and I have access to it, that keeps me, that's the first step. Because then it helps you know that you have the power is with you, and you move in a place that, nothing can hinder you. And so just accepting who you are, I think that we say acceptance is the first step. So accepting that you are loved by God, And that may seem hard. It's a journey, but you have to get to a place. You know, I looked at my journal and I think of, just look at your past life and look where you are now. Just take a moment. They talk about the gratitude. Take a moment to look at where you were and look where you are now. You've made some movements. You made some steps. And so it helped me to see that God was with me then and God is with me now. And, you know, I just need to believe that. So,
and you know, it's you know, I love that you said that. And I don't know if it's our willingness to hear God's voice more when we're in the trenches than when we're in a good place. Like, I don't know if we're seeking his voice more when we're in those places, but I often feel like I tie it to back to Jesus. Whenever I read about Jesus was hanging out with killers, stealers, like tax collectors, like all the people who were less than to society's eyes. Like, that's who Jesus was hanging with. So I almost feel like when you're in these places, when you're in this, now I ain't telling y'all to go out to the strip club tonight. I ain't telling y'all. That's not what I'm telling you. But what I'm saying is, like, exactly what you said. God is with us wherever we are. God is with you. Carry your Jesus with you wherever you are. So when you doing what you ain't supposed to be doing, he with you. When you doing what you're supposed to be doing, he's with you. And for me, just those moments where he's just looking at you like, this what we doing?
I told you 30 times.
Right. I mean,
do.
I like what you said, DJ, because it's about being sensitive. Sensitive to where spirit is. And I think that's what it was for me, just being sensitive. And you know, when you do that, I think that's when you are able to see that you're not alone. When you quiet yourself, because in the chaos, you feel all the tension, all the pain, all the stress. But when you get still, that's when you're able to, you know, clear your path.
And often, I know for me, there was a time in my life where I couldn't get quiet. I couldn't get still because I'm running through so much stuff in my mind. It's almost like that's how I run from God. It's like, all right, well, I'm going to watch TV, do everything in my power to just stay busy. And it's just because it's like God be like, hey, if you shut up for 1 minute,
I can tell you what I need to tell you.
I'm gonna change your whole world, but it's gonna require some stuff from you. So it'd be like, I ain't ready for all that right now, guys.
Right.
I think that's the power, like, of the pandemic. It has forced people to kind of sit down and deal with themselves, especially like people that weren't out, that's kind of having this inner war with their sexuality and their spirituality. Is like, how do I consolidate this? Like, I have nowhere else to go. I can't run out to the clubs like I used to. I can't do this, but I got to sit with myself. So I like that. Duchess, I'm not actually going to put you out there, because when Pastor B mentioned this, like in a club or a KFC, I remember you telling me about a story about you was watching a drag show, I believe. Can you share that? Because I just think that that story was so powerful.
So was it when I went to the closet?
I want to say, yeah.
I think we were at I DJ at a show called The Closet, and it's basically for LGBTQ members, just a place for us to go and not necessarily be a club atmosphere, but it's just a place to listen to poetry and, you know, hang out and just dance and do our whole thing. And it's I was in there, and one of the performers of the band is a trans woman. And I remember the first time that she performed, she was doing gospel music, and the spirit just like let loose in there. And it, like, just to look out amongst people in our community that look like us and love like us, with their hands raised, and you can just see that moment where it's like, you know, it's like I can be here and I can be out and I can be gay at the same time, because a lot of us have been in churches where we can praise God and love God, but we can't be ourselves.
Right.
It can't be I'm standing next to my boo, holding my boo hand, while I worship God. And so that for me was something that I was just like, wow. Like it was like, people can say what they want to say about us, but you cannot mistake the Spirit of God for what the Spirit of God is. And when the Spirit falls, no matter where it falls, you gonna feel that thing. And that for me was the moment where I knew he good.
Yeah.
He good with you. Like you ain't got to worry about it. He good with you. Because I felt like when the Spirit can touch you, the Spirit touched me just as much as it would if I was in the largest church, and if the ushers was putting the white cloths on my legs. The Spirit hit me just as hard as it would in the house of God.
Yeah, I love that. I love when, especially in gay culture, I think the sanctuary has to be where we are, because there's not many places for us, and so anytime I see that intertwine, it just goes to show what the theologians, philosophers, all of them have said, that God is. There's one philosopher I like, African. He's an African philosopher. His name is John Anthony Beatty. He says that God is to the African people like their skin. It just never like goes anywhere. God is just always there. And to me, it reminds me of just queer people. We have to. God is where we are because there's not many places for us to worship. So when the drag queen comes and perform a gospel song, it is always touching. Or the drag king, or the blessed performer. It is always touching because it shows to me that spirituality and the sacredness of it is intertwined with sexuality and spirituality. Yeah. It's attached to our being.
Yeah,
we're sexual beings, God. We're sexual.
Yes.
We're sexual beings.
Listen. We have to be, and he has to have intended it for us, because that place has one of the most nerve endings in the body. It feels everything. He created it for us, and I've seen people. I've seen. There was a male who's on my timeline, and he's in a heterosexual relationship, and he talks about when he first married his wife. Now he's married. It's you can do that thing at this point.
Yes.
He said that he had been so bogged down by what the church had said, by things he'd been through spiritually, that he couldn't fully, like, his wife was like, this is boring.
Yeah.
Like, because he's like, I couldn't fully pleasure my wife because I felt that everything I was doing was dirty. We've been taught so long
going back to that chain,
that knowing our sexual selves is dirty. And that's from, at some point in time after I had my children, because I had children back to back, I no longer had a libido. Like, I no longer wanted sex. And my doctor, my OBGYN was like, masturbate. And I was like, what? And that, especially in the church, is the first taboo. You gonna go blind if you.
Well, I'm gonna go blind and get this nut real quick.
Well, listen here. If that's the case, I got cataracts. But all I'm saying is, the doctor was just like, you have to sometimes will that part of yourself to come back, that part of your hormone system to come back. And so I think about this young man who was like, I can't pleasure my wife because of what I've been through, the trauma that I've been through in church. And he said, once I got to the point where I let that go, man, he was like, that was a whole new world for me. Like, me and my wife can truly enjoy each other, because I feel like, especially in the sanctity of a marriage, that is a beautiful place to be, when you love yourself and you are confident in yourself, and then you get with the person who your body can. I feel like you can get on a different spiritual plane with somebody if you can just open up and allow that soul tie to come in with that sexual tie to the person who you are meant to be with. Man, mind blowing.
We have been saved
it's a soul act.
Yeah,
it's a soul act. It's a soul act. When we understand that even getting to that orgasmic process, that's like the highest expression. That's like one's affirmation of love to God. Like, we've been taught through the Bible, okay, God is outside the bedroom. Only if you're speaking of heterosexuals, God is in the bedroom. But no, for us queer people, God is in that bedroom cheering us on, like, you better get it. And bringing us together. Hold on, pause real quick. anyone, if y'all have any questions for Pastor B, go ahead and load it up in the chat. And then Pastor B, if you want to go ahead and go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying, it's pleasure. Like, you've been shamed against pleasure. I mean, God clearly created it. The source energy clearly created this manifestation of orgasms and pleasures. And I mean, animals have sex. Like, it's just a part of nature and creation, and it's the pleasure part of nature. And so why don't you honor yourselves and get some pleasure? You know, sometimes so like you said, we've been shamed. We have a 4-year-old, and you know, he's a boy, and you know, they don't have any type of decency in any type of place. I mean, they have to touch themselves. I mean, it's like, so how do you train them? And I just was like, okay, son, you can just go to your room. Like, you know, and I think about my mom and them growing up, you probably gonna your hand pop for doing something like that.
Yeah.
You know? So I try to like just not shame him or make him feel embarrassed, but you know, saying, hey son, that's something you do in your room, something you do in the back. Britt doesn't want to see it. So, you know, so just try to find ways to not shame him. So when you brought that example up, you know, with that young man, and I've heard stories from friends and fans, like who their marriage struggled because they didn't know how to interact with each other sexually, because they did grow up in the church and they did abstain for a while. And that's a real thing. People don't know how to enjoy themselves. That's real, y'all. That's not made up. I've heard it more than one person. They, like you said, think the body is dirty, or don't even know how to please each other because they didn't even learn how to please themselves.
Yes.
If you do not, you
everybody masturbate tonight, please.
So how would that where that pleasure lie? And that's something you practice. And listen, I was a late bloomer, but I had to speed up.
Look, overtime. You put it.
Listen, but if you think about it, even in the Bible, when it discusses that, it says like to know your wife. And Adam knew. It's always like an Adam knew Eve, and so there's a knowledge there. Yeah, and you have to know yourself in order to intimately know someone else, because you might have to teach them how to do something. They might have to, they might have to teach you how to do something. And if you don't know you, how you gonna show me?
You gonna show me? So the holistic. So the 21st century. There's the body keeps score. There's this theory called embodiment, and embodiment is just also understanding and knowing that the body holds knowledge. And so you're using your body as knowledge. So your body knows when it needs to be touched.
Yes.
Your body tells you when it needs to be touched.
Yeah.
So how
it's an energetic force. It's an energy. That's why sometimes when you could be someone that you're attracted to, your body could already sense heat. It's already drawing you together.
It's already drawing you in. So then to deny your body is to physically and spiritually, mentally deny and block what your whole being. It's like literally you're just ignoring it, and you're causing yourself pain. You're causing yourself to be a broken structure. So sometimes people say they never know how they create their own chaos in their lives.
Yeah.
This is how, because you're not paying attention or being sensitive to what your body is saying, what spirit is telling you, what all of your source energy within is trying to acknowledge where you need to go. So
Capture Allen says exactly. You need to explore your own body and understand your own body before you can even attempt to know your partner's body.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You don't know you can't please her if you don't know what pleasure is. You know, that's my favorite.
Vulnerability.
Yeah, it's vulnerability, but you gotta be vulnerable with yourself. Look, I know where I like to be touched. I'm gonna hit you. I know where to hit you because I know exactly where I want to be hit, where I want to touch. So I'm going to explore. I want to explore. And the body really is it is a temple. It is a temple.
Y'all around here melatonin in yourself.
I'm going to need my fan in a minute.
Look. I already have plans.
Y'all going to melatonin yourself to death. You better just release and go to sleep.
Look, man, sex, man, you can manifest some great stuff.
Yeah.
Manifestation. You could build a business, raise some kids. I mean, it's not for us. It's not all about procreating. You can create some good stuff.
You can know yourself.
The thing is, it's not all about procreation, because some people still have the nervous system and can't have children. Yeah. Right. So, like we talk about, well, God didn't intend for it. Y'all don't know what God's intentions were. Right. And so
I think definitely just for procreation, because everybody can't procreate, right?
Exactly. Like I think sometimes we try to be too deep. Yeah. And we don't really understand what God has going on and what the plan is for us. Pastor B, listen, it has been amazing having you on the show this evening.
Can I give a shout out before we go?
Can you do 2 shout out? What you got in your hand? I'm thinking.
That's what I was going to do. So this is a book called Pussy Prayers, and it's a book called Sexuality and the Black Church. Oh,
I'm writing this down. Just keep going.
Sexuality and Black Church is by Kelly Brown Douglas, and it deconstructs some of the church myths around sexuality. And it also gives a historical view around sexuality in Black bodies. Pussy Prayers is like a devotional. Well, I can call it devotional. It is in something like that. It's helping you to reclaim your body in different places. But hey, if you don't have it, let me tell you something. We have to save ourselves. So I will be doing a series every Monday on my IG where I'm actually reading from these books for free.
Nice.
Awesome. You can check it out.
Do a donation in my Cash App. But
what's the voice you're gonna use for that? I'm
gonna use this one, and then I got 2 more. So every Monday I'll be reading from a book that integrates sexuality and spirituality for the
coming to you live. It's
Pastor B. I thought about doing it with a robe. I was like, but y'all ain't gonna make memes of me in my bedroom.
I used to have a little thing red robe. So put your
TD Jakes can do a sexy album. Y'all better get on it.
No, I'm gonna be sitting here and we're gonna be talking, but I'm gonna be reading. And so that's every Monday. My IG is can we put it as I always forget? Yes. I think it's Britt Black Ivy. Let me just look real quick. You see, I don't really do this. What's my name on here? Britt Black Ivy, on IG. So,
and I don't mean
is it BLCK or BLACK?
It's BLACKIVY.
All right, I got you.
So that's gonna be every Monday in September. Oh yeah, thank you for posting it.
I got you, no problem.
And Pastor B, right before we go, because I've been looking at this for some time now, okay, and I'm single. That picture you got.
So this is
that's what I meant initially about the shout out.
This was out of burlesque. I can't tell you who was the artist for this because it was purchased for me as a gift. But I like to call this painting the Garden of Eden, just because, of course, the bush. But also that the divine feminine, that we come from women, that we are birthed through the woman's womb. And so for me, it's always reminding me to respect the divine feminine, respect the woman's body. And so it's a reminder. Also, the person who gave it to me, someone was very close. So it was reminding me to always, respect her, respect the body. I'm not the Garden of Eden.
Okay. I was about to get a plate. I was gonna get the fork.
So it's all about respect, and that's what it reminds me of. Yeah. Awesome. And eating some food too. Sorry.
This has been beautiful.
I love y'all, man. I can't stand whenever we have guests on the show, because every time we have guests on the show, I'll be like, as soon as the show go off, I'll be like, I want to hang out with them.
We should. You guys in North Carolina, right? So when I'm
in North Carolina.
I'm in Jacksonville, Florida.
Oh, I got somewhere to be when I come to Florida. I'm gonna hit up DJ.
All right,
and KJ when I come to North
Carolina. Not far from ATL either.
Yeah, there we go. Now I'm in Pennsylvania, but I'm from Atlanta. So when I
got you.
Listen, we go to what's it? Sesame Street place. I got kids. I come up there.
I'll bring my baby. Yeah,
let's go.
He's not with me all the time. We're with mama, so
Look,
I got one. Shout out to the parents.
I'm truly appreciative of you to this evening. And to everybody who will hear this, we are now, like I said, we're on Twitch, Spotify. We are on Anchor for podcasting it. I'm gonna post some more episodes this weekend, and we are on FB, IG, YouTube. I'm just trying to share the message to as many people as possible, and just trying to do what we do. And we definitely thank you, Pastor B. I feel like more pastors like you coming out period, will open a world where those pastors who are still in the closet, I understand their reasoning for it. I definitely understand it. But if they would just step on out in faith, there is a community that is willing to love them and be there for them and support them. And thank you guests for watching and staying with us. And we started late because of technical difficulties, but I
this was
really
a breakthrough conversation.
It was worth it by Rainbow Roy. Really was enlightening, very free.
Thank you. All right, y'all have a blessed evening. Stay safe, mask up, stay out of folk face.
All right. Peace.
Bye.